Welcome to Life is for Living. I'm Kylee Buckley, and I'm here with David J Riddell from the School of Living Wisdom. Welcome, David.
Hello, Kylie. Thank you.
Well, David, today I was wanting to talk into anger. It seems to be very common, and you've got quite a lot of very good information here in your manual, and I've been reading about it and thought, let's do a show on it. And I just want to read this. Whenever we are bumped, we'll spill whatever we're full of. Whereas assertive people don't need to get angry. They have already said what they needed to avoid the sense of powerlessness, resentment, or frustration that invokes anger. To be angry, one must first be afraid of something. Until that fear is traced, faced, and healed, the anger will not resolve. Are you able to sort of talk into that a little bit more, David?
Yes, I'd love to. I have plenty to say on anger. After thousands of years of human experience, we are still utterly ignorant of anger, really the causes and cures. People are still indulging in anger. They're still committing crimes of passion and crimes of anger. There is still passive aggressive and active aggressive and violence. You could be forgiven for despairing of humanity for just not learning from one generation to the next. And yet, anger is very simple. It is the manifestation of fear or disappointment energy. And the angriest people are the people who cannot accept disappointment, will not accept disappointment, will not accept feeling powerless, will not accept feeling disrespected. They can't sit with feeling unheard or feeling invisible. Basically, anger is what we do to protect ourselves from an unbearable feeling. And anger is never the cause, it's always the symptom. It's not treated as a symptom. If it's a symptom, what is it a symptom of? Well, it's a symptom of someone who never got used to disappointment, never learnt to negotiate, never learnt assertiveness skills, and never learnt to lower their expectations, and discovered as a child that anger gets them what they want, when they want, how they want, and so they become addicted to it. Anger is, for some people, an addiction, but always look behind anger to find the unbearable feeling that is stalking them like a wild animal and causing them fear. You could say that anger is a continuum. It begins with irritation. It graduates to frustration. From there, it graduates to anger. Anger, if indulged, graduates to emotional violence. Emotional violence becomes verbal violence. Verbal violence becomes physical violence. And physical violence becomes murder. So in a very real sense, anger is murder's little brother or little sister, so as not to be sexist. And sometimes people say to me, Christians mostly I should add, that Jesus got angry and therefore legitimized anger. And I sharply correct them. I tell them straight away, do not confuse your carnal fear-based anger, your efforts to avoid any disappointment whatsoever, with anger based in love and caused by love and desirous of the protection and the sustainability of God's loved people. So love-based anger is a very different beast to carnal anger. We don't want to justify carnal anger. In the name of Jesus being angry in the temple with the money changers, we want to quote James in the New Testament, the anger of man never ever has achieved the righteousness of God. You can find that with the concordance yourself. The anger of man achieveth not the righteousness of God. And I can speak from experience because I was a very angry boy and a very angry young man. But one day I asked myself an empowering question that changed my life. Do you want to know what it is?
Mhm.
I hope you do, or you're watching the wrong channel if you don't. My empowering question was, when did anger ever really make my life better? When did it make my life better? It gained the distrust of the people I love and the people close to me. It caused me to disrespect, to despise, and to commit verbal violence. It's caused me to curse and to swear. It's caused me to lose friends. And so really, I can tell you that I've had life with anger, Kylie, and I've had anger now for some years without anger. Frustration, yes, but not anger. And I got to tell you, I would never go back to a life that includes anger. It never, ever made my life better. I used to think that it got me heard, it got an audience, it got some action, it got some compliance, it got some obedience. And we know that foolish parents reach for anger every time they want more control in the family. But it never really works. It never really achieves what they want it to achieve. What it does achieve is the fear and suspicion of their children and the belief in their children that they will not be heard if they've got a problem or if they've made a mistake. It achieves in the children secrecy, and once there's secrecy with children, then the enemy can come in and begin to rob, kill, and destroy, as is his habit. So when children start keeping secrets from parents, I suspect they have angry parents. Not necessarily, but generally they do. And I think I want to say my most profound comment on anger tonight. I think I want to say that in life, frustration is compulsory. Everyone gets irritated. Everyone gets frustrated. But I also want to say that anger is always optional. You always have the choice to control your passion, to talk yourself down when you're racking up and firing up. Firing yourself up until you begin to bully and dominate is always a choice, and it's always the wrong choice. You can live anger-free. And as Christians, we know that we are to put on the mind of Christ. Well, when I arrive in heaven, according to the promises, I do not want to find a bad-tempered Jesus, because that would disillusion me terribly. Do not indulge your bad temper. It will always lead you away from God. And the point is here that those are kept in perfect peace, whose mind is knowing that God works in all things for good. Why should we fight with circumstances and fight with events? Do you want to work under events, or do you want to work above events? And this is a big deal for every person listening. Do you want to be pushed around by events and then start pushing back with your anger? Do you want to call the guard dogs out on this intruder and that intruder? You know, feeling unheard is an intruder. Feeling disappointed is an intruder. Feeling powerless is an intruder. But once you've made friends with your unbearable feeling, once you've made friends with your intruder, the guard dogs go lay down. They don't mind once they know that you've made a friend of this feeling. And when I say a friend with an unbearable feeling, I mean you come to terms with it and you can bear it now. If you can't bear a feeling, 9 people out of 10 pull their sword out and start raging in order to protect themselves. So that's what I have to say about anger. I have to say that anger never ever made your life better. It always made you worse. Now I know we live in a cathartic, crazy generation that want everything out. Let's have it out. Let's clear the air. It's about time. I've had it to the back teeth. It's about time we fronted this thing. And as a result, they practically burn the goodwill and the family down in the process of clearing the air. That is not the way to go about it. Really want to encourage people that assertive people don't actually need to get angry. Assertive people don't get angry because they've already given a warning. They've already stated what they needed. They've already said consequences for non-compliance. And all of this without losing their dignity or losing their gravitas. All of this without losing their cool, and all of this to get their point across. Let consequences do your shouting for you. If you're a mother, don't lose your dignity. Let consequences do your anger for you. In other words, and I'll finish with this, in other words, walk softly but carry a big stick. What do you think of that?
Yes, consequences are important. Well, they are. No, they are what speaks, because that is what affects
That's right. You're
behavior.
on to it.
And I think too, when one is angry, you lose your power. You
Yeah,
just you've just given it into the
yeah,
abyss. You've just
yeah,
thrown everything out, and you've
yeah.
lost your
And
reason.
once you've lost your dignity, you've lost the plot.
Yes, it's not helpful because everybody goes running. I do. I've been witness to anger, and I just take off. I
Well, they
just
take a step back, don't they? They just keep their distance then, and they don't let you in. They don't share with you. You're unpredictable. You blow your top. You think you've got away with it, but actually you haven't. I can remember every single occasion where my father lost his temper with me, and all it really did was create defensive detachment in me and produced a great big attachment injury, which was never healed before he left us for the next life. So it's disappointing that it goes like that. And a lot of people can't cry when their parents die. It's a relief. They had a bad temper. They used to walk on eggshells around them. And to me, that's just generations not learning.
mm. So if you are somebody then that loses their rag easily, like I was driving down the motorway the other day on the left side here in Christchurch doing 100k, and a guy went straight up behind me, and he should have just gone on the right-hand lane. Well, he did eventually. I ended up putting my foot slightly on the brake because he was right up behind me, and he zoomed around and gave me every conceivable, hand signal. And I just thought, you know, people that are so tightly wound like that, he was really, if we were stationary at a light, so I feared he would have come out and whopped me one.
Well, road rage is becoming more and more common, and you don't have to look far on YouTube to discover it turning violent very, very quickly. And that's what I say, stay off the slippery slope. Stay right off the slippery slope. The best thing I can say to you is to follow the advice of St. Paul. Bless those who curse you and return good for evil. The best thing you can do when somebody duffs you is just give them a friendly wave and wish them a good day. God bless them. And that's really to pour hot coals on their head, shall we say. But it sure brings their anger into stark relief, and maybe it'll make them ashamed.
So if you are one then that is easily angered, you know, and they're listening to this, how can we help them? Do they need to find what's really going on with themselves? Why they tip the scale so quickly?
Absolutely. Self-awareness is missing. Two things there. Help people, help your children to stop crucializing. The angry person is the crucializer. What is the crucializer doing? Well, they're making out non-crucial things to be crucial. And that's always going to be a wind-up. So help them to get out of the habit of crucializing. And secondly, understand that all irrational responses, all responses that are over the top, are committed by people who are trying to protect themselves from the unbearable feeling that's stalking them.
So,
Any over-the-top response is committed by somebody who's scared of an unbearable feeling that's about to pounce on them.
so as we said in the introduction, it's fear-based.
That's right.
You know what? It's like you're saying the thing that you fear will come upon you. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, panic is the big brother of fear, and rage is actually panic in drag. Or should we say that panic is rage in drag? Panic and rage are first cousins. When I see rage, I see panic in disguise.
right, I see. So can it be suppressed by self-control?
Well, it can be suppressed, but it's just like pushing the top down on the pot that's boiling over. You can lock that top down and suppress it, but it's a bit like screwing down the top of a pressure cooker. Eventually it's going to blow. And some people are lid lifters, and as therapists, they're lid lifters, lifting the lid, getting it all out. Cathartic reaction is all the tools they've really got. And when all you've got is cathartic relief, everybody looks like a pressure cooker. However, I don't, in my own practice, particularly enjoy lid lifting. I don't find that screwing the lid down with self-discipline or religion is the answer either. I want to just turn off the element, Kylee. I want to remove the source of the heat, and immediately the pressure goes away. And we do that with a good antidote, a good truth coach for the stalking, unbearable feeling.
Yes. Yes, well, you know what, I've gone, talking about truth coaches, I've actually looked some up that might help some people. So let me read some of them out. Be with me a minute. There's quite a few of them here in your book.
Just take a selection.
I know. Either express your hurt and get over it, or suppress it and become more and more angry and reserved, incident by incident. So it's important to express what's going on inside.
Hence my previous statement that assertive people don't get angry because they don't accumulate resentment. Why don't they accumulate resentment? Because they've already said what was needed, what was lacking, and what it will take to move out of a pretend agreement. I have to say that probably the number one cause of anger is pretend agreements. Well, if you negotiate them properly, they won't be a pretend agreement. And if they slide into a pretend agreement, then all you have to do is assert yourself, state what it is you need, and then counter-proposition them. And most pretend agreements can be fixed with a simple single counter-proposition. Then there's no need for anger, is there?
Mm-hmm. So a pretend agreement, guys, is an agreement that you think you've made with somebody and they think they've made something else, and they don't match. So
yeah.
Sat down and worked out your side and their side and come to an agreement before you begin.
And it could be who's going to pay, or how much they're going to pay, or how much the job will be, or what time the appointment is, or what time we're leaving, or who was supposed to do what. It's the stuff of daily life, isn't it? But better negotiation in those areas until we're in enthusiastic agreement and both clear about what's expected. That just pulls the rug out from under all of those little annoyances and disappointments, all of those let down expectations that bring anger up.
Yes. Excuse me. Here's another truth statement, R182, if you have the book. Without the ability to push back on the intrusive person, one can only silently seethe or blow. What is the unbearable feeling that any attempt to be assertive invokes? So that was similar to the first one that I read out.
I can promise you an anger-free life, but only if you trace, face, and replace that unbearable feeling that you protect yourself from by whipping your sword out and cutting people's heads off, by blowing up or clamming up. And here we're talking about passive aggression from resentment, as well as active anger from disappointment. But you cannot get on top of anger if you are still allergic to a particular emotion and desperately trying not to experience it. You'll pull your anger up every time as a solution.
We actually did a show on the unbearable feeling. So have a look in the topics list on the playlist and you'll see it there. And have a listen and see if something can identify with you. And if not, send us a message and we can talk into that for you.
We have a massive reduction in anger in all of the students who graduate the 2-week Living Wisdom School here in Nelson, New Zealand. Those that have had anger problems all of their lives are suddenly completely free because there's nothing for them left to defend themselves against. And they've learned how to accept disappointment, which basically means they've lowered their expectations as necessary. and they've spoken the truth and counter proposition and got it sorted. I love to see that. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they understand anger.
Yes, it's true. Okay, R183. An angry person breeds tension wherever they live. A flexible mind produces peace, unless it becomes peace at any price.
You know, teenagers flee homes where the parents are in constant tension with each other and there's a constant angry atmosphere. Teenagers have no tolerance for that. They just want to hide in their rooms, or they want to get the heck out of that place because of that angry atmosphere. And teenagers themselves can become the source of that angry atmosphere if they're disappointed with their parents, disillusioned with life, or building self-hatred around themselves. So anger dissolves marriages, it dissolves families, it dissolves careers, and it dissolves trust. You're way better off without anger.
Mm-hmm. And I also think too, unless it becomes peace at any price. I mean, sometimes, and I can vouch for this with the circumstance that I had, you learn to just button it up, because if you speak up, there's going to be anger issues. So it's not a good environment to be in. And you know what? Sometimes it needs to get sorted. So,
Peace at any price.
What happens in that situation if somebody's in there, where their partner just gets angry, all the time, for the other party to sort of deal with life if they've got children? What's a good way forward for them?
Counter proposition. Here's my proposition. Concede to it and there'll be peace, or counter proposition me and we'll negotiate it, or else I'm just going to have to make myself scarce. I'm not having this conversation, it's going nowhere, and I'm not prepared to keep it up. And again, let consequences do your yelling for you so that you can keep your dignity. It's very important that we emerge from conflict and we emerge from strife with our dignity intact and still respecting who we are and still carrying the respect of the other party.
Mm-hmm. 175, the healthiest alternative to winning the fight is to express your point with dignity and then find the inner security to let it go. That's what they're saying.
Good luck with that. You see, you can't let it go if it's still pressing on your bruises. If it's still rubbing on your emotional bruises, you won't be able to let it go. Willpower is not the solution here.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one, R156. Tempers flare often in a disorganized household, but a good parent's wisdom harnesses anger to find solutions. Proactive or reactive is always the choice.
Interesting phrase that, to harness anger. To make sense of that phrase, you need to think of anger as disappointment energy, the energy overflow of disappointment. When I'm disappointed, it's time to write a letter of protest. It's time to make a phone call or proposition somebody or counter-proposition somebody. When I'm disappointed in myself, it's time to sit down and figure out what belief in my head sent me up for that failure, set me up for that problem. Anger is really essentially disappointment energy, and it's really good to harness that and figure out, how did I set myself up for this? How did I contribute to this? What do I need to learn from it?
Mm-hmm. One more. If a couple cannot negotiate, neither will they be able to cooperate. Domination and resentment will therefore be the only predicament they can finish up in.
In pre-marriage counselling, I insist on a display of negotiation skills. They're not licensed to marry until they've got negotiation skills. They're not going to succeed in life until they've got negotiation skills. And people who avoid and neglect that life skill will either become bullies, obnoxious, ugly people, or they'll become professional victims. giving their power away, full of resentment, and failing to counter proposition when they need to. If you have zero negotiation skills, those are pretty much your only two options: passive aggression, sulking, or on the other hand, active anger, sabotage, or rage. So I really encourage people: negotiation is the king of the life skills, trust is the queen of the life skills. Don't neglect the development of both of those life skills if you want a successful life. Hey, you may not want a successful life. A lot of people don't. And so they never really take those skills seriously, and they reap harvest after harvest of trouble. It's so sad to watch that.
Well, thank you, David. We'll leave it there, and we will continue on with this topic with some other sessions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.